And we're live with The Art of Attraction with Dominey Drew. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Dominey Drew, and I have a great show for you planned out today. If you're new to the show, by all means, welcome. I'm here with you live on Facebook. So you're welcome to tune in with me there. If you hear me making comments to people who write in, then that is what I'm doing, as opposed to talking myself like a crazy person. That's what I do, whether people are commenting or not. So if this is your first time tuning into the show, then by all means, welcome. If you know me, then you know that I specialize in helping single men attract life partners through personal and relationship coaching. And I really go into a lot of that coaching here. Sometimes I pull experiences from or stories from my current clients. You know, they experience really incredible results working with me. I'm very happy to say, and you know, often it's really useful to see what it is that people are going through, who are really all on the same path. You know, the structure of the work that I do, I teach an online course, and once people are in that course, I do weekly group coaching calls, and and in those calls, you know, we really go deep into not so much, you know, dating tips and tricks or what to say to pick up women, but really like on the deeper levels, how are you holding yourself back from what you want, right? So the work isn't even really that specific to dating. It's really about, you know, self-sabotage, you know, where do you hold yourself back from what you want, right? And once you know that, you know, what do you do about it, right? So it's not just about sort of identifying the problem, but but really seeing, you know, what are the steps, right? What do you need to do to stop self-sabotage? How do you even recognize it in the first place, right? Hi, guys. Hi, sweetheart. Got a couple of clients on here now, tuning in to the Facebook Live. So thank you so much, you guys, for doing that. And, you know, if you guys have a question, whether you're a client of mine or you're just listening to the show, if you would like to call in and ask a question, I would love to hear from you, okay? The number for that is 828-333-4686. Again, that's 828-333-4686. And I would be happy to chat with you about, you know, what it is that you're struggling with, whether that's, you know, related to our topic today or not. What I tend to do with these sessions is really to help you guys identify your unique issue, right? What is going on for you that's keeping you single that you don't realize that you're doing, right? So if you'd like to call in, you know, the sort of topic that I have planned out for you guys today has to do with emotional unavailability. But if you're a frequenter of the show, then you know that I tend to change topics in the middle and tend to follow the flow. So sometimes we end up talking about what we're supposed to talk about, and sometimes not. And that's always just been a nice way for me to work. That's sort of how it tends to flow for me naturally. So that's always good. So again, I really do, you know, work on those deeper levels, right? And the reason I do that is because that's where the problem lies. So a lot of people will, you know, think that, you know, if only I knew what to say to a woman, then my problems would be gone. And that's really because your brain, your conscious mind is working really hard to figure out what the problem is and fix it. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, if you've been single for a long time, and a lot of the people that I work with have been single for a really long time, then, you know, if it were something that, if the thing that were keeping you single were something that you could fix with your brain, right, with your conscious mind, you would have done it by now, to be honest. You know, it's not rocket science. You know, if you needed to get out more, or, you know, if you were approaching the wrong women, or, you know, that would be obvious. You know, you would be able to tell. If you can't tell what the problem is, then that means the problem is subconscious. You know, it means that the problem is It exists on a deeper level of yourself, and by definition, you're not able to access that. So what I help people do, both through this podcast and much more intensively with really spectacular results in my work, in my coaching call. Yeah, Nathaniel, you're welcome to call in. It's absolutely free. Doesn't cost anything to call in. If you have the number there, if you need it again, let me know. And so to do that, what we do in the course is we really look into what it is that's happening underneath the surface. We bring it to the conscious mind, because until we do that, again, you're not able to fix the problem, right? It's by definition unfixable, right? So until you can actually define the problem, right? Because right now what's happening is you're wandering around in your dating life, and honestly, probably in other areas of your life, but even if it's just in your dating life, you're wandering around trying to, kind of blind, right? Trying to solve a problem that you can't even define. So the first step is to bring the problem to awareness, right? So when you work with me, what happens is within a matter of weeks, no matter how many years you've been struggling with your issue, within a matter of weeks, and honestly, it's usually within a matter of days, the people start working with me, they already know exactly what they're doing that's keeping them single, and exactly what to do to fix it. I mean, that happens within a matter of hours once they get on the phone with me. So that's a really powerful thing, because now we've got a problem that we can solve, right? So if, for example, you have a really hard time approaching women, you experience anxiety, right? Things like that. And you have no idea how to fix it, right? I mean, that's something where you would actually have identified the problem, right? But if you have that, you kind of fear, and you're like, I don't know how to approach women. It's impossible for me to do it. Then, we look underneath the surface. Great. What is it that happens in that moment when you see that woman that creates such fear and anxiety, right? And let's say for you, it's, a fear of rejection. Okay. Well, if you think about it, getting rejected by a woman, just that thing in itself, that event in itself, is not a petrifying experience, right? Someone who experiences that, let's say, if there's somebody coming at you with a knife, right? Or you're trapped in someone's basement and they're, threatening you, you're tied up and they're going to take your skin off. That is a petrifying experience, right? That is a hugely terrifying, fear-based thing, right? A woman telling you no does not in any way threaten your safety. Okay. There's nothing evolutionarily in that would cause you to, experience such fear. So what that says is that there's something else going on. Okay. You're experiencing that fear with respect to approaching women, but it doesn't make logical sense to our adult conscious minds, right? So that means that the problem lies elsewhere. Okay. So then what we do is we start working backwards. Great. What is it that really happens for you in that moment? And we start diving into your subconscious. And what we're able to do when we get there is find the illogical but very strong fears of what you think might happen. And that's based just about always in things that happened when you were a child. So we have experiences at a young age, right? Whether they were traumatic experiences or not, to our adult mind is irrelevant. Every child has a primary wounding that they experience at a very young age, and that age can change, right? Depending on when it happened for you, and it doesn't need to be anything that, again, doesn't need to be abuse or neglect or abandonment. Although, of course, those things can absolutely cause these kinds of trauma, but it could be what essentially it is it's the child perceiving its life as being threatened. Okay. And that can happen quite easily. How hard is it to threaten the life of a child, right? I mean, they're literally defenseless. So, a wound can happen quite easily. That's why it doesn't need to be something like trauma. You're like, no, there's nothing wrong in my childhood. I had a great childhood. It doesn't matter. I had a great childhood too. And then I spent the next 15 years finding ways in which I'd been damaged in one way or the other. And that's okay, because moving through that allows me to become more of myself. And that's what this process is really about. So that you're able to approach a woman confidently, feeling clear and confident about who you are, and able to, to approach without fear, right? So let's use the example of emotional unavailability. Okay, so what is it that's happening here? If you're emotionally unavailable, then there's a part of you that has shut down, okay? Something that does not want to be open and loving and giving and exchanging freely with another person, okay? Some piece of you that's afraid to do that, okay? So first thing, or unwilling to do that, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be fear-based. It could be that, like, people have screwed me over in the past and I'm not doing that anymore. If you peel back the layers enough, however, there's always fear, like, oh God, I'm going to get hurt again. Okay. It's underneath the anger of, these people always treated me badly. Ask yourself, what's underneath the anger? If you're always frustrated, if you're always mad at your ex, or you're always angry at women, or you're always, mad at yourself. Okay. What's underneath the anger? If you take the anger away, what happens? Okay. So when we do defend ourselves, there are a couple of different ways that we do it. Really, anything can be a defense. It's less about the thing itself and more about the energy behind it. Okay. So even love, well, quote, love can be a defense. Okay. That used to be a favorite of mine. So essentially I would be, I'm a very loving person. That's one of my, what I call core qualities. Instead of, loving in a healthy way, when I felt like someone didn't like me and I like needed people to like me, I would sort of over love them, right? Or I would become a major people pleaser, and that sort of distorted, right? That's a gift of mine, is loving. And so when I felt threatened, or when I got nervous, I would overdo that quality, and it would be, and that's what we call a defense. But it could also be fight, right? People who get aggressive. If you default to fighting, if anything that goes wrong, your initial reaction is that you get pissed off. Okay, you're a fight person. Okay, that is your default. Chances are your core qualities are along the lines of, leadership, strength, clear boundaries, decisiveness, honor, things like that, all excellent qualities, right? And then your distortions will be aggression, rigidity in your boundaries, distortion of power, overuse of power, fighting when you don't need to, things like that. So there's a fight response, or there could be a flight response, which is like, you may not literally run away, but energetically you kind of do, right? Like, how people are kind of not quite there, or have like vacant eyes. You can tell when a person is what I call, present or not, right? You can tell when someone's in their body. If you're thinking about something that's far away, or if you're always distracted, then you're not in your body. You're not present. If you're the type of person who tends to, I just forgot the example that I was giving. That was actually a really good one. If you're the type of person who tends to say things like, oh my God, it's already January. Gosh, where did the year go? And you actually mean that shit? Man, to me, that is fucking crazy town. Okay, that is crazy to me that people are like, oh my God, can you believe it's already August? Yes, because July just happened. Where were you for that? Like, Why are you surprised that that time is passing? To me, that says that you're not present, which is a little alarming, guys, because it means that you're missing your life. If you're one of those guys who like, oh, I woke up when I was 40, man, that shit is terrifying to me. That's terrifying that you would wake up, quote, wake up one day and realize that half your life is gone. You think you're getting that shit back? So like, it might be scary to like live in a present way in your life, but there's nothing more worthwhile, because otherwise you're missing life, you know? And look, I mean, you know, this can be easier said than done, but it's really important. It's really important, you know? It doesn't matter how successful you are, how loved you are, or how much sex you have, or, you know, whether you spend your time doing whatever it's like, if you're not there for it, you know, if you're living kind of a half-lived life, you know, for me, that's a personal nightmare. It is actually. Like living the life of, you know, if you guys have seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right? The movie with the two spies, and they live this like total normal suburban life. And they have these, you know, wild, hidden lives underneath. But that like suburban life, nothing wrong with the suburbs objectively, but for me, it's like, that's not what I want. So that's like a fear of mine, you know, or it was for a long time. You know, now I just know that I can choose something else. But for a long time, I was like afraid of like ending up that way, you know, because to me that the stereotype of that represents this like half-lived life. You know, you're not like, you know, powerfully living in the suburbs. Like, yeah, I'm like making a stand and I travel around the world and I change people's lives, and like that's the kind of life that I want. So to me, having somebody else, you know, having that sort of life being compared to is, you know, it was scary for me. So anyway, that's kind of what that kind of represents for me, is if you're not present, then like time's gonna pass, and it's just not gonna, you know, nothing's gonna come of it, right? So, if that resonates for you, you know, there are practices that help you get into your body, but let's talk for a minute why people aren't in their body, okay? Because being human is like a messy, you know, dirty, kind of fucked up experience, right? I mean, there's a lot of really amazing things. There's, you know, beautiful passion and eroticism and art and, you know, beauty and nature and human connection and incredible things. And there's also like pain and terror and, you know, petrifying fear. And it's all kind of wrapped up in one, right? So, you know, what tends to happen is, you know, in these young experiences, when we have these wounding experiences, we make certain assumptions or decisions about life, and those form into what we call beliefs, okay? And I say this a lot on here, but it's very important to make this distinction between beliefs and thoughts, okay? So I, you know, just in the last episode, I used the example of like, a thought is like you'd like to have a sandwich for lunch, and if you can't have a sandwich for lunch, then like, oh, it's a shame, and then within a matter of days, you've forgotten that you ever, you know, needed a sandwich for lunch. So it's much more easily changed, okay? A belief is something that you really believe to be true, and it's lodged very deeply in the subconscious. And so what happens is that they then are operating always underneath the surface of your awareness. Okay, so you know, you want to approach a woman, and instead of being able to really just confidently approach her, you're kind of running the other way, or assuming that she's not going to like you. That's how you know there's an underlying belief. Okay, because again, approaching a woman is not a terrifying experience, objectively speaking. So if there's terror there, then that's eliciting something in you that's not logically appropriate for that situation. It is, however, very real. So there's no judgment here, right? You know, we all have our stuff. We all go through it, and it's important to see that this is really illogical in the sense of there's obviously something, that's what points to the fact that there's an image or there's a belief underneath the surface. Okay. Someone comes at you with a knife and you react with fear and terror, that makes sense. If a woman, asks you for the time and you find you're unable to speak, there's something else going on. Okay. So how do you find out what it is that's going on? So essentially, here's a fantastic exercise. I think everybody in the world should do this exercise. Write down in a list form everything that's ever gone wrong in your entire life. Whatever it is. I got divorced. This one time the guy forgot my order and brought me something I was allergic to, and I was late for this. Whatever it is, many things that you can think of. Make the list as long as you want. And then when you're done, or when you just sort of feel complete, then look at the list and see if you can find the patterns. Okay? Just let it be casual and easy. Just look at it and see, I wonder what these things have in common. Okay? And you will find incredible patterns. Okay? And then you dive into the pattern. So I ask people on their initial call with me whether or not, what it is that they're struggling the most with in their dating life. And often they're like, oh, I'm not really sure. And so I go, okay, well, what is it that keeps happening? Something is happening in your dating life that you're unhappy with, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't be on the phone with me. So what is it that keeps happening in your life that's caused you to be single until whatever age you are now? I get repeatedly rejected. I keep attracting the wrong women over and over again. I get in relationships and they're great for 6 months and then they're gone. Okay. That's fine. So find the overlying pattern. Okay. And then just sit with it. A lot of this work is in the realization. If you knew what the problem was, you would already be fixing it, right? So a lot of this is just noticing. It's not like, oh God, women just don't like me. Right? Yes, women don't like you. It's fine that you're perceiving that. But what is that exactly that happens? I start chatting with a woman and we get along fine. And then when I ask her for her number or I show romantic interest, then she doesn't want to engage anymore. Okay, great. There's the pattern, the actual pattern. What actually physically happens in your life that's left you single at this point in your life, right? I do everything right and I just don't get any results. Okay. So you can see how there are things that are happening. So for example, if your issue is that, what I just said around, a woman not wanting you, right? Or as soon as you getting stuck in the friend zone, right? I've done whole episodes on that. So everything's fine and women actually really like you a lot until you show romantic interest and then they bail. Oh, that's interesting. So then if you were working with me, we would really dive underneath the surface, right? What is happening underneath the surface that's causing women to turn in their affection at that point, okay? Causing them to reject you at that point. And it will be something, and so we'll work underneath. And an example of what might lead to that reaction so that you guys kind of understand what we're doing is there will be an underlying belief like, nobody wants me. Or I'm not enough. Or I'm unlovable. Undesirable. And you can hear that these are very simple, and if you'll pay attention, very childlike statements. Okay? I'm not enough or I'm unlovable is a very childlike phrase, right? An adult probably wouldn't phrase it that way. They might, but probably not. right? There's a little bit more complexity. Well, they just don't find me attractive. Well, a kid wouldn't say that, right? So when you get down to these really deep underlying statements, because these were formed at such young ages, they tend to be these sort of wide overarching statements. And these are the assumptions that you have grown up with, and you literally form yourself around them. You literally grow around them because you've believed them for your entire life. They shape your body. Did you know that? Beliefs shape your body. So if you're trying to lose weight and you can't, like you genuinely can't, even with help, even with, going to the gym or working with trainers or whatever, and it's just not coming off, check and see what you're holding on to emotionally. I used to carry a lot more weight on my body, actually, and I've been done this work for a long time. And when I started doing it, I did it for a while. I was carrying a huge amount of responsibility for other people. That comes with the people pleasing, right? That I met earlier. It's like, oh, I'm responsible for how you feel about me. What? How on earth am I responsible for whether or not you love me? I have no control over whether or not a person loves me. That is literally something I cannot possibly, influence. I mean, I can certainly be nice, but it doesn't mean you're going to love me, does it? That's up to you. It's your choice to love me or to not. But the fallacy there, the thing that I was believing that was inaccurate, was that I had to take responsibility for how people saw me. So I carried that responsibility for everyone else's emotions. What? Not only is it by definition out of my control, truly, but it's not my job. It is neither my job nor my right to control how people see and receive me. Which, by the way, is not the same thing as being like, fuck what other people think. That's a fuck you, which is going to create a negative reaction in other people because it's designed to create a negative reaction to other people. So when people are like, I'm going to be who I am and fuck everybody, you can if you want, but that's not going to lead to happy connection in your life. It's not going to lead to happiness. It's not going to lead to relationships. That's a defense to keep you from getting hurt. Because if you're loving and vulnerable, then there's a chance that you might get hurt. And there is. There is pain in the world, folks. That's not distortion and defense. There just is. People die. That's awful. Especially if you like those people. Trees get cut down in massive numbers. That causes a lot of pain in me. And so, and so there are sort of things that happen. Now, the tree example is something that I can kind of do something about. For example, I use this search engine browser called Ecosia, Ecosia, and they plant trees when you browse. It's exactly the same as Google. I haven't noticed one single difference. I've used it for a year, and they plant trees. It's I'm not sure if it's a nonprofit. I think it's a nonprofit, and they tell you like how many trees they've planted. So for me, that does not, harm or influence my life in any way negatively. I'm not even doing anything differently. Just install the browser, and I'm able to like make an impact that makes me happy. That changes the world for good, in my view, right? So there's a difference between sort of, okay, I'm going to do this because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to use Ecosia. It makes me feel good to tell other people about it. And also that doesn't stop, huge amounts of trees from being cut down. So there's a way in which I can take steps forward in making the world a better place according to me, which is the only way I can make it better, right? And also sort of accept that this is the way the world is going. I'm going to do my part to counteract that, and I'll go plant some trees, and I'll give to environmental charities, and that's something that I do to make the world better. And also, this is the way the world's going, right? Resources are going fast. That's a fact. So to sort of fight against that in ways other than, as I'm sort of saying here, in ways that bring me joy, there's an element of pain in the world that's not to be avoided. Happy lives aren't happy because they don't have pain in them. Okay. You're able to, again, it's like the rejection from the female, right? That elicits so much panic in you. It doesn't need to be that bad of an experience. The reason the rejection from a woman hurts so very much, if that is your pain point, is because it's associated with something else way worse in your system. That thing that, that belief that you're carrying from when you're a kid. So a woman saying, no, thank you, I'm not really that interested, or I have a boyfriend, no, thank you, is not a painful experience. Hearing or thinking that you hear in the world, someone reflecting back to you that you are not enough, which is, if you carry that belief, I'm not enough, if that's why you're experiencing rejection from women, then when you get rejected, that will, quote, get confirmed. It's not being confirmed. She has a boyfriend, or she's not your type, you're not her type, or she's just not interested. Who cares? Maybe she's a lesbian. I don't know. Doesn't matter. She's not the one for you. Okay? That's okay. There's 3.5 billion more. Okay? That's not the problem. That wouldn't elicit panic on its own. If you did not have the underlying belief that, let's say, I'm not enough, that's our example, we're going with that. If you truly believed that you were great inside and a woman said she wasn't interested, you'd be like, okay, well, listen, it was great chatting with you, and have a great night. And then, you'd go ask someone else. Okay? So the rejection's not that painful. It's not great, but it's not that painful. The confirmation of your deepest fears is what's so painful. And if your deepest fear is around rejection, then yeah, you're going to experience a lot of uncertainty, a lot of panic and fear and worry around that particular experience. But can you see how it's not about the women? It's not about dating. It's not about being single. It's not about being male. It's about what happened when you were a kid and how you're still carrying that today. And let me just tell you what, when you drop that shit, okay, when you actually move into a place of, so what we do in my work is we go in and we clear those. And I mean, we clear them. They are gone. Okay. This is not dating tips and tricks. This is not a self-help book that you read and you feel a little bit better about yourself, but nothing really changes in your life. This is about reaching way in, okay, and solving the problem from the inside out. Okay, just the way I'm sharing with you here, except I facilitate it, right? I walk you through this process. This is how I'm able to get such incredible results so quickly because, it doesn't take that much time to become aware of it. If you know how to go directly to the issue, it doesn't take that long. Therapy doesn't need to take years on end. More years you do it, the better you'll be. Certainly encourage that, but that's not what it needs, right? So when you address the underlying issue, and if you guys have more questions about exactly, what it is that I do and how to access it, go to DomineydRew.com/hello. Okay. DomineydRew.com/hello. And what that'll do is it'll lead you to a video of me just kind of talking about, who I am and what I do. And at the end, it gives you the chance, if you're interested in getting on the phone with us, me or my team. And we can really look directly at what is it specifically that's holding you back. How long has that been going on? How has that impacted your life? And a lot of people, they come on the call, and they have no idea. They never thought about these things. Why would you? It looks like it's just happening to you, but that's the victim state, right? And the victim state is a bitch because it doesn't move. Can't get out of the victim. If it's not your fault, there's nothing to fix. There's literally no way for you to fix the problem if it's not, if there's no self-responsibility. So we start there. With me, you start there. You got to own your shit. Stop blaming the women. Stop blaming society. Stop, blaming your parents. It's like, none of this serves you, dude. You got to own your shit. You got to step up, and, you got to take responsibility for your peace, because that's the only peace you can fix. Okay. So, so you can see how, while rejection might be the issue, it's actually just the symptom, right? So if you're experiencing rejection, and there's really that panic and fear around it, there's most definitely something going on underneath the surface. So how does this relate back to emotional unavailability, right? If you're not emotionally available, and that's a term that people use to describe a certain thing, right? The term is, they're not available emotionally. What I think people are saying when they express that is, I can't feel you. I don't have access to you. Like what we were saying earlier about people who aren't there, who are vacant in their eyes, right? You can tell. You know how you can tell if you're talking to somebody whether or not they're listening to you? I mean, really listening. Like, they may not be talking or looking away, but like, you can kind of see whether or not they're present and really engaged in what you're saying. How do you see that? They could not move, and you can perceive that, right? Because you're able to tell energetically whether or not a person is there. Okay? So if you're in a relationship with someone and they say you're emotionally unavailable, check in with your relationship about vulnerability. How do you feel about vulnerability? Because if someone is emotionally unavailable, usually that will mean that there's a freeze of some kind. There's a stop. Okay. So fight, flight, or freeze are sort of the main defenses that people will tend to use. Okay. Fight being you're pushing your energy at people. Flight being your energy's up and out. You're, oh my God, get me out of here. Sort of fear-based, right? Fight being anger-based or aggression-based. And then there's freeze. Okay. And freeze is like when you just stop your energy entirely. And your body can move, and you can talk, and you can have conversations, and everything's fine, but something in you is not moving. I'm mirroring it here on the Facebook Live. Maybe you guys can hear it on the radio. But it really is a stop. Okay. And the reason we do things like this, same as fight or flight, I can't hold it for very long. It's exhausting. Oh, man. And I notice as soon as I stop holding, or as soon as I stop stopping my energy, I breathe. I take a deep breath, because it takes effort. It's unnatural. So is fight or flight. Those are both things that take more effort, because what your system naturally wants to do is be in a kind of allowing state where you just let life happen. Do you guys ever go in a yoga class and they say things like, say yes to life, right? Like, this is honest to God, such a good practice. It's such a fucking good practice. At any point when you're feeling the slightest bit tense or worried or uncertain or anything, if you just say yes, I mean, you can even just say it in your mind, just be like, yes. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. This is happening. There's just an acceptance of the reality of what it is. And interestingly, most of human suffering is around arguing with reality. It's not actually the pain, right? I'll use the tree example, right? The environmental example. So, the factual part about the environmental issue is that, it's been a few hundred years and we've used about 50% of the world's resources, right? It's an exponential rate, right? Totally unsustainable. That's fact, right? That's not something I'm making up. So that's a fact. And that makes me sad. That causes me pain. Okay. Because I really like our planet. I mean, the planet will be fine. Ultimately, it's us who will, who will in fact not survive this. But still, that causes me pain. That's part of my being, right? You may have something else, right? Your cause might be, hungry children, or, homelessness, or mesothelioma, or whatever it is that, really pulls at your heartstrings. So for me, it's the resources, our planet. So there's the natural pain that sort of causes me, and that's just being vulnerable. That's just some pain of life, right? Sometimes life hurts. I'm seeing this happen. It is the choice of 7.25 billion people. I have as much influence as I have. I can use Ecosia. That makes a little difference that I can do. But I'm not really able or even really inspired to completely turn around that thing on behalf of all 7.5 billion people. So there's the natural pain that causes me, and that hurts for a little while, and then it goes. What would hurt a lot more is if I argue with that reality. And here's how that would look. I cannot believe this is happening. I cannot believe people use all these, single-use products, and then they just throw them away as if they were, as if we have all this garbage, and people don't recycle, and that's planting up in landfills, and everything is so it would be so easy to fix, and and that is endless. Because it doesn't matter. All the things I said don't matter. There was a factual thing I said. We are going through 50% of our resources. There is the emotional reality of that. That hurts me. I feel pain with that. It makes me uncomfortable. That's the end of it. That's the end of that interaction. I let it hurt me. Okay? Ouch. Oh, feel the pain of that. Man. Yeah. Okay. That's gone. Minutes. Real reactions in that way, when you let something hurt, lasts minutes. When you fight the hurt, I can't believe people are doing this. There's recycling right there. I see people putting plastic in the garbage. Don't they realize that plastic doesn't break down in hundreds of years? That's me arguing with what people are doing. I can't believe that's happening. They shouldn't be doing that. What the fuck does that matter? What does that even mean? They shouldn't be doing that. They are. So, that word actually has no meaning. What people mean when they say that is, I don't agree with the fact that they're doing that. But the statement is, I don't agree with that reality, because people are doing it, right? That's a fact also. So, and in doing that, I'm just making myself crazy. And I'm doing that on some level to avoid feeling the hurt of just oh man, I see my neighbors and they have so much, garbage. Their garbage fills up every week and there's just no recycling. Man. Where my neighbor, left his truck on for 15 minutes. I went over to their house and was like, hey, are you okay? Because he's left his truck running for a really long time. It's you're just literally just utterly, useless sort of pollution. And this is a thing. So again, I can sort of take those little steps and make my little difference in the world. But ultimately, it's for me to feel that pain. Okay? To argue against it is to start arguing with reality. And I can do that endlessly for the rest of my life. And I won't go anywhere. It ends up being like a mental hamster wheel, right? Where you're let's bring it back to dating, okay? So women just don't like me. I don't know what's wrong with them. Women today, they just want to have sex. Nobody wants monogamy anymore. It's amazing how often I hear that. Boy, how times change, huh? But okay, so it's all them. This is the same victim mentality. It's like me saying people should recycle. What does that mean? All it does is ruin my day. It doesn't make more people recycle. I didn't say I go out and I maybe make signs to remind people to recycle. That's a thing that might, in fact, influence whether or not people recycle. Me sitting at home saying they should makes me unhappy and does not do anything for the planet, for the cause. So you sitting at home blaming women probably feels really great. There's something called negative pleasure. And it probably feels really good to do that. Oh man, it's not me, it's the ladies. They just, all they want to do is have sex, whatever it is that you experience. right? They just don't like me. They just want me to be their friend. They don't want me to date them. Whatever your pattern is, right? That's a hamster wheel. You will keep going and going and go. You will keep blaming women. It's never going to change because on some level you're looking for it, right? So you're drawn to women who will not like you because there's something going on underneath the surface that's causing this repeated experience in your life. And that's the problem, not the women and not you, not the core of who you are. Women don't reject you because you're unlovable. Women reject you because you think you're unlovable. I'm just going to say that one more time. Women don't reject you because you're unlovable. Women reject you because you believe that you are unlovable. And you, my friend, are a remarkably powerful human being, a remarkably powerful creature. And if you say on some level, especially in the subconscious, if you say that you are unlovable, that is the reality. You make it so. You have no idea how powerful you are. Enough that no matter how handsome and dashing and charming you are, you will still make women reject you. You are more powerful than outward reality, than the physical world. You will influence and make yourself right. That's the purpose of looking at the list. That's the purpose of finding the pattern, to look at the pattern, see what you're getting, and then look underneath that and see what you believe that's getting you those results. That's just the symptom. Rejection is the symptom. It's a data point. It tells you something about what you believe. So when people say things like, that you create your own reality, it's like a buzz phrase now, oh, you create your reality. Yeah, what does that mean? Well, this is what it means. This is exactly what it means. If you believe on some deep level that you are unlovable, you will see that everywhere. You will make yourself right. Do not underestimate how powerful you are. You will make yourself right. If you believe there's something wrong with you and you cannot lose weight, that's what's keeping you from losing weight, not your physical body. Your physical body will change based on the beliefs. Mine has hugely, right? Because my subconscious is more powerful than my physical body. That is a fact. I have seen it work countless times. So the point of finding the pattern, okay, is to see, okay, like what's true about this? I don't know. Women just keep leaving me. Okay. What's underneath that? What's going on there? And there's a process that I use, and I do this with my clients, and that's why within, half an hour to an hour of working with me, they're able to see why they've been struggling against reality for so long, why they've been struggling to get what they want and unable to do so. If that is what you're experiencing in your life, this is the solution to it, period. There is nothing else. This is the thing standing in your way. It's you. And that is not the bad news. The bad news would be if it were women, or it were men, or it were weight loss. Because how the fuck are you supposed to fix those things? You can't fix women. Dear God. What a job. You can't fix men. All you can fix is you. And that is the best fucking news that you should have heard in your entire life. Because that means that every problem that you ever experience in your life is within your power to fix. So self-responsibility, doesn't need to be something that you're afraid of. It's not a bad thing. That's the good news. The good news is that this is, quote, your fault. It's not, because you're not doing this consciously, but it is your responsibility. And again, that's the good news, because now it's within your power to fix. So, so powerful things here, again, the symptom might be rejection. It might be anxiety around people, around women. It might be, that you struggle with sex. It might be that, you have a lot of friends, you have a lot, a great social life, but just nobody who like loves you, no intimacy, no heart connection, not no heart connection, but no romantic, intimate, erotic connection, right? So whatever it is that you're experiencing, find the pattern. Look, you make the list. Try not to think too hard about it. Let it flow. Trust the process, right? Because there's a huge amount of power in that. And then when that has been made clear, then you're able to do something about it. Okay, you're able to find the underlying beliefs. And then when that happens, let yourself feel the feelings around them. This is the whole process. I'm giving you all my secrets right here. This is it. This is all I do. All I do. It's profound. It's wildly transformative, and incredibly powerful, and pretty simple. So when you do feel that, I feel like I'm not enough. This thing happened when I was a kid, and I was told that I wasn't very smart, and so I'm not. I don't think I'm good enough. Okay. Here's the thing about not being good enough. Okay. That's not a thing. Like, if you even think about that phrase, like I bet nobody thus far, in the number of times I've said this in this episode, has questioned that phrase, or been like, that doesn't make any sense, because we all kind of know what that means, right? We're all sort of familiar with that experience. But let's just get really literal for a second. What does that mean? I'm not good enough. Good enough for what? In the English language, the word enough needs a comparison. It's not enough, my I don't know, insecure statement. My legs are too fat. Okay. Too fat for what? That's not a statement. Do you know what I mean? I'm not good enough. Not good enough for what? For whom? I'm not good enough to compete in the, US Open in tennis. That is a true statement about me. I am not a good enough tennis player to compete at the US Open because I've never played tennis. That is a correct usage of the term good enough. I am not good enough to do this. My legs are too fat to fit into size 0 jeans. That's a statement. Okay, they're too fat to do that. I got it. Okay. Too fat for what? Right? Not good enough for whom? So if there's a statement like that in there, if one of these is really resonating with you, ask yourself whose voice that is. Oh, you're not good enough. If you're one of those people who hears that in your head all the time, holy shit, you guys, I used to hear that in my head all the time. All the time. And you're not good enough. What does that mean? So eventually someone asked me, they're like, whose voice is that? And of course I answer mine, because that's what it sounds like. If it weren't yours, whose would it be? Go young. First thing off the top of your head, whose voice is that? Right? And it's usually a parent or a teacher, sometimes from a very, very early age, but like this stuff happens young. Okay. So it'll usually be a parent. And then, what gave you that impression? Who did you hear say that? Because you're carrying around someone else's voice in the form of an I'm not good enough, and it's leading to all these issues with women, okay? So here's how you know that's an image, that's a belief. Because if you personally felt that you were not good enough to do something, you would just become better at it. I'm not confident. You know what? I'm not confident enough. I think I'm going to become more confident. Because the phrasing of the word I'm not confident enough indicates that you want to be more confident. So if that were a genuine desire that were solely yours, you would just fix it. You would just be more confident, not just be, or you would learn, you know what, I'm going to go learn to be more confident, whatever, right? And it would change for you, and that would no longer be your reality. So the fact that you're carrying it around indicates that it's someone else's voice. And it's not really that you believe that you're not good enough. It's that you're afraid that you're not good enough. Someone said that at a very early age, right? Or whatever your phrasing is, you know, I'm unlovable, I'm not enough, you know, whatever. Somebody said that at a young age, and you took it on, right? So now, of course, it sounds like it's your voice because you've you know, embedded it in your system. You've grown up with it. It's your reality now, but its core, it's actually not, right? You're afraid that that's the case on some level. And so you sort of project it everywhere, and you prove yourself right. And then it hurts. And then you go out to someone else and you try again and you prove yourself right. And then it hurts. So that's why I don't deal in tips and tricks. That's why I don't tell you. I mean, I'm happy to talk to you about, you know, my clients about what to say when they approach a woman, but that's not the source of your difficulties, right? Because if you had no confidence issues whatsoever, you would march up to a woman with absolutely nothing to say in your head and you would do just fine, right? So what I really want to impart here, you know, especially with this not good enough type of work is, you know, if that's the kind of thing that you hear in your head, if there are patterns in your life, if there's negative self-talk that you hear, here's the invitation. Here's my invitation to you. You've been running from this for your entire life. Don't worry about contradicting it. Don't spend your time saying, I am good enough, because your system says that's bullshit. It does. You know, you're not going to believe yourself. These are much, much, much deeper than just me being like, I feel great about myself today, even though you feel like shit. No, you don't. You feel like shit. So instead of that, here's my invitation. Turn and face it. Just turn and face it. In those moments when you hear that voice says, I'm not good enough, face it. Stop your day. Turn your focus to that voice and go, why not? And watch what happens. Because these fears and beliefs, they feed off of, not feed, but when you believe them, when you put stock in them, they get stronger, right? The more this is like a Tinkerbell and Peter Pan thing. If you believe, then she's real. And if you don't, she's not. So these fears that you're carrying around, they don't actually exist on their own. If you were to stop putting stock in them right now, your life would change so fucking quickly. I can barely even tell you. So try turning and facing. Just challenge it. Really? I'm not good enough? Not good enough for what? What makes you say that? Who are you? I'm not afraid of you anymore. Come into the light. Okay? Find the places in your system, guys, in your mind, that are dark places that you don't want to go, and risk going there. It's never as bad as you think. Never. And it opens the door to more transformation, more attraction, more confidence, more self-love, more empowerment, and a more, you know, fulfilled and happy life and fulfilled and happy relationship than you can possibly imagine now. So give that a try. And then come find me on Facebook and write on my page and let me know what your results were. I'd love to hear. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Again, this is Dominey Drew with The Art of Attraction. If you want to find out more, come check me out, domineydrew.com/hello. Thanks so much, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and download any podcast episodes you like. Thanks so much. Bye, all.